So let's assess some club vibes of these teams that are pushing for the Champions League. We're going to do a little scale from -3 to 3. What's it kind of around the club? What are the vibes in the football club? So we're going to start off with Manchester City. Darian, I'll come to you. What do you think the vibes are with this Manchester City team right now? They're third in the Champions League, and they obviously had that good win last night, playing Fulham on the weekend now too.
I'm going to go 1. The expectation is a lot higher when you're Manchester City, and looking at this year, knocked out, yes, eliminated in a final. You're in 3rd place, which is great. You're as of now qualifying for Champions League next year, but the expectation is so much higher from how talented this squad is with Pep. So I'm going to stick with a 1.
Nigel?
I'm going to go with 2. I think the Manchester City, the ambition is to make top 4 Champions League football. Hasn't been to the standards, like you're right, that they've normally been used to setting. But if they get into Champions League football, you'd have to say it's been a decent season. It's a rebuild in the process of what they're trying to do.
Wow.
I give them credit for coming back.
So nice.
I'm really surprised. I thought you were going to be in the negatives.
So nice. The recency bias on that analysis.
How is it recency bias?
I'm going to roll back the receipts from December, how you were talking about Manchester City and Pep Guardiola and unable to adjust in club crisis.
Hold on. I never said I was in club in crisis. I said, and I give them credit to how they came back from that. Yes.
Decent is winning a trophy. They're walking away with nothing.
I thought you were going to be in the negative.
Choose your adjectives wisely, Nigel.
They have won 4 consecutive Premier League titles, and they've come back from a lot of turmoil.
She didn't ask you for a rating on Pep Guardiola's era. She asked you about the rating
right now.
Currently.
Did I say them? I said I gave them a 2. Great win yesterday. They're on a roll. They beat Fulham. Champions League football.
For me, that's a little bit generous. It's a 1, and if they make Champions League, it's a 1.
Yeah.
It's not getting any higher than that.
That's the expectation.
Manchester City is a club that's been built and has
Recently, built how? Built how? On an influx of money. Let's be real, right? So recently, yes, with the success, the money, the influx, yes.
And based off of that, which is what I was getting at, I'm not... let's not beat around the bush here. Yes, absolutely. There's so many things that are happening with Manchester City. Everything you're saying is absolutely spot on. And given the fact, you got to expect them to win something. And this season, they hit rock bottom. Pep Guardiola, as a manager in his entire career, hit rock bottom. The club was a -3, and you could go even lower than -3 on the rating. I would have gone lower. But they managed to get things back on track. It's still trophyless. And now it feels like there's going to be a rebuild. They're cleaning house.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of one of their pillars. Literally the one surviving guy from the entire Pep Guardiola tenure, gone. So it feels like this is a new step in what may be one of Pep's last years. So 1, because obviously, given some of the financial ease that Manchester City has.
I think what you've also got to give him credit for is the fact of we saw how awful they were halfway through the season, and then now to come back to still make Champions League football, where some people didn't think that they would, you got to give them credit, because then you're disrespecting how competitive all the other teams around them.
I did. Yeah, they were at -2, -3 before. Look, they're at a 1 now. That's a sensational jump.
-3, but all right.
Moving on, underneath Manchester City is Newcastle. They're currently sat in 4th place. Had that historic win, winning the Carabao Cup this season. Nico, I'm going to come to you first. What are their vibes right now on the meter?
I mean, 2. If they make Champions League again, I would say it's a 3, right? What more can you ask of Newcastle, rebounding off of last season where they didn't make Champions League? They're going to have a shot at redemption after, I think, that first season in Champions League shook them a little bit, but they won a trophy. I mean, yeah, you're coming off that loss to Arsenal, so maybe right now it might be different, but you have control in your hands to make the Champions League. It can't be, for me, it can't be lower than a 2.
Yeah, I agree with the 2.
You 2 finished now?
Yeah, let's hear it.
2-2.
Let's all pick the same number. I'm going to give him a 3 because of what they've achieved. They've won the Leagues Cup. They've showed continuous progression for me under Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe deserves a lot of credit. There we go. I'm fine. I haven't been having your mate, that's why I feel a lot better. But,
so nice today.
You have to. I like the progression. Eddie Howe's done a fantastic job at Newcastle. You talk about a club with a tremendous fan base, like massive fan base, well supported. To win the Leagues Cup and to still be competitive in a very competitive Premier League and finishing in the top 4, I think that is a fantastic season for Newcastle United, and I think they deserve a 3.
OK, let's move on to Chelsea now. They've got a big next week coming up, playing in the Conference League final, currently set 5th place. They're playing Nottingham Forest, which will probably be, I think, the game of the weekend.
Super Sunday's firecracker, that is the game. Exactly.
Then, so Darian, tell us what you think the club vibes surrounding Chelsea are right now on the scale.
I'm going to go a 1. It's going to depend on this final match against Nottingham Forest for me. Yes, I think that they've done well, but that match is going to be determining on if they get a 2. If they win, 2, but right now it's a 1 for me.
OK. Nigel?
0. Can you say 0?
Yeah,
of
course.
Yeah, I'm going to give them 0. Bit disappointing for me in Chelsea. I think all the money that they've spent, you want to get something. Yes, they still have a final to play for in the Europa Conference League. I felt that they're in a great position halfway through the season where they should have done more. You could question Maresca and his wording and what he said at that period, that we're not here to compete, we're not here to top 4. I don't think that's something that goes well with Chelsea and the badge and what that club means. And I think it took the pressure off the players and we saw a big dip. Yes, they've come back. I agree with you, Hannah, that is the game of the weekend. Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea. That's going to be a big decider in who finishes in the top 4. So I would give them a 0.
What if they win Conference League and they make Champions League, or the other way around? They make Champions League and they win Conference League. That's got to give you a couple of
that would give them a point
on the rating scale.
100%. If they do that, I would say I'll move it to a 1, definitely. Yeah. But Chelsea, for me, a club, when you look under Abramovich, when he took over, this is just my personal opinion, I felt he copied the blueprint of Real Madrid, how they did it, how they built the club. They got the best players in the world at that time, Jose Mourinho, and it was about winning. And if you didn't win, you get fired. That's just how the club was, and that's how the club has always been. So they created that winning culture very quickly in the winning mentality, and that's why the Chelsea fans are so demanding. And then now when you have a manager in the place, and at the time they surprised everyone, they were second in the league, I never saw it. And then to come out and say that we're not quite ready, we're not competing, you don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do it publicly. You could do it privately, even though I won't even say to do it privately, because you had the players on the roll there and everything. Keep the momentum going. This is what it's at Chelsea. We're here to compete. We're here to try and win things. If it happens naturally and organically, no problem. But when you say that, you put yourself in the shooting range and for us to shoot down.
Especially when they were having that kind of spiral, right?
Yeah.
In January, February, when they had gotten off to a pretty decent start. So for me, it's a 1 and only if you make Champions League and you win Conference League, a tournament that you should win, being Chelsea, it could be a 2.
Sat below Chelsea are Aston Villa, and I would say they've got probably the best looking game of the season, last game of the season.
Why, Hannah? Why?
Well, they've just played Tottenham and they've had Man U, and I think looking at them, you'd think, I'd take them. They're currently sat in 6th place. Obviously, final game is at Old Trafford against Manchester United. Nico, club vibes here around Aston Villa.
2, 1.
2,
I don't know. I'm trying to make up my mind.
Pick a number.
1 right now, and if you make Champions League, it's a 2.
Okay. Is it
right
the
now
Martinez thing as well?
No.
Just
I mean, that's going to be a big loss if and when he goes. Replacing a goalkeeper like that, that's fundamental to your team. That'll be a big loss. But right now, 1, if they make Champions League, 2. If they're back in Champions League, 2.
Darian?
Yeah, I'm agreed. I totally agree. I think it's contingent on these last games, giving them that extra point, but I'll stick with the 1. I wish I could do 1.5, but I'll do 1.
2. 2. Love Unai Emery, what he's done at Aston Villa, the progression I've seen again with them. And I think that people, when we give these ratings, people have to understand how competitive the Premier League has been. I don't think there's been a Premier League as competitive as this when it comes to this race for Champions League football on the final day with what's at stake. So many teams can still make it. The entirety of the season has been competitive. There's clubs we haven't even mentioned, in the likes of Brighton and Bournemouth, and the amazing season that they've had, and even Fulham into that category. And then you even add Crystal Palace into it. So I think for me, with Villa, they've done fantastically well. I would give them a 2. I think they definitely will probably make Champions League football. Like you said, Hannah, that they've got Manchester United, and it's not the same Manchester United.
No, that we all know.
Yeah, so it will be interesting, but yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest now. They sat underneath Aston Villa, 7th place. They kind of had a dip in form over the last couple of months or so. They started the season well, and it's just gone down a little bit. So we'll start off with you, Nigel.
I would say, listen, Forest have had a fantastic season. I would have to give them a 1. They were in a great spot.
Yeah.
And it kind of steamrolled and lost momentum. Leicester result was the big blow for them, for Forest, and that. If they've got that Leicester result, that will be it. But Chelsea game is a cup final for them.
So for me, it's a 1, and the manager, Nuno, has had clashes with Marinakis that has also probably affected a little bit of the dynamic internally. But if they beat Chelsea and make Champions League, that's got to be a 3 for Nottingham Forest.
I'm giving them a 2 right now. I've loved watching them this season, watching them dominate the way that they play with their heart on their sleeve. So I'm going to stick with a 2 and a 3 if they make it.